Alright humans, in this video we are going to multiply binomials. So the first thing that we're going to do is distribute, and I'm going to use the FOIL method. Then we're going to combine like terms and write our answer in standard form, which means we go from highest to lowest exponent in alphabetical order. Alright, looking at example 1, we have 2x plus 4 times 3x plus 1. So using the FOIL method, we're going to multiply the first two terms from the parentheses. So that first step is going to be 2x times 3x, and that will give us 2 times 3, which is 6, and then using our product rule, we add our exponents, which would leave us with x squared. Then we're going to do 2x times 1, so we're looking at our outside terms, so that would be our O, so 2x times 1, which would leave us with just 2x. Then we're going to look at our inside terms, and that would be 4 times 3x. Okay, so 4 times 3 is 12. We just have 1x, so we need to leave that. And then we're going to do the last two terms in the parentheses. So the last term over here is the 4, the last term over here is the 1. So my L would be 4 times 1, which would be 4. From here, we want to look at the 4 terms that we have left over and see if there are any that we combine. Looking at these, x squared doesn't go with anything, so I'm just going to write 6x squared. But I do have 2x and 12x, so those two terms I can put together. So 2 plus 12 is 14. So I'm going to have 14 x's, and then I have my constant at the end, which is a positive 4, and that would be my final answer for number 1. Looking at example 2, we're going to do that same thing. So the first terms that I multiply are the x times x. X times x is x squared. Looking at the outside terms, we have my x times negative 1. So here we do need to watch those signs. And here we would have negative 1x. Going to my I, we're looking at my inside terms. So those are the middle ones. So I'm going to multiply negative 6 times x. So negative 6 times x is a negative 6x. And then looking at my last terms here, we have negative 6 times negative 1. Okay, and this would give me a positive 6. So same thing as our last video, we're looking at these last 4 terms and we're going to see what we can combine. Our x squared is going to stay x squared, but I can combine negative 1 and negative 6x, and that would give me a negative 7x. And then adding that 6 on at the end, we are now in standard form and we are finished. Looking at example 3, our first terms here are going to be the 10 and the 8. So 10 times 8 is 80. My outside terms are going to be 10 and that negative x. So 10 times negative x is the same as negative 1 times 10, so negative 10x. Looking at my inside terms, we have 2x times 8, and that will give me 16x. And then we have 2x times negative x would be negative 2, because 2 times negative 1 is a negative 2x squared. From here, we're going to combine our like terms. So when I look at these 4 right here, I'm going to start with my highest exponent. This time it's at the bottom. So I'm going to have negative 2x squared first. I'm going to combine my x's. So those x's that I combine are still in the middle. So negative 10 and positive 16, which will give me a positive 6x. And then my constant is a positive, so I'm going to put plus 80. And now we are finished and we have organized those in standard form. All right, looking at example 4, we have 2x minus 3 times 2x plus 3. So our first terms here are going to be 2x times 2x, and that'll give me 4x squareds, because again, we are adding those invisible ones for our exponents and multiplying our coefficients. My outside term is going to be 2x times positive 3, and that will give me 2 times 3, which is 6, and writing that x would leave us with 6x. Then with my inside terms, I'm going to do negative 3 times 2x, which will leave me with a negative 6x. And then with my last terms, I have negative 3 times positive 3, which would leave me with a negative 9. Looking at these four terms here, we want to look at the highest exponent, which is 4x squared. And then I look at my x terms, so I have 6x and negative 6x here. So those would cancel. 6 minus 6 is 0, so I could have 0 x's and then put my constant here. But when we have 0 of something in math, we just don't put it. So my final answer, fully simplified in standard form, would be 4x squared minus 9. All right, and looking at example 5, when you see this squared outside, that means you must repeat parentheses. Okay, so must repeat, and I'm just going to draw the parentheses here. So instead of just multiplying that 2 with the x and the 3, we want to expand. So this right here is actually going to be x minus 3 times x minus 3. That is probably the biggest mistake that we see on these types of problems. So now that we have it set up, we can do FOIL just like we did before. So looking at my first terms, we're going to do x times x. So that would leave me with x squared. Then I would do my outside term, and that would be x times negative 3. And that would leave me with negative 3x. Then I'm going to do my inside terms, and that would be negative 3 times positive x, which would also be negative 3x. And then my last terms would be negative 3 times negative 3, which is a positive 9. And now I can organize those four terms that we found. We should have x squared, negative 3, and negative 3 would combine to be negative 6x. And then lastly, we end with that positive 9. All right, hopefully that helped with all of your binomials. And that's it for today.